This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Let's continue yesterday's session. So yesterday's session, we discussed about different templates of web service, right? Mainly, there are two types of templates: synchronous web service, asynchronous web service. Asynchronous web service, again, it contains asynchronous callback and asynchronous one-way, two types under asynchronous web service. So if you see on the screen, the basic understanding here, synchronous web service, client submits the request. That means client takes the responsibility to submit the request. Web service takes the responsibility to process the business logic and then send the response back to client. Okay, sending request is client's responsibility, sending back response is web service responsibility. But when you are talking about asynchronous web service, under asynchronous web service, first model, asynchronous callback. In asynchronous callback, client takes the responsibility to send the input. Client takes the responsibility how to get the output. So web service generates the output, but the output will not come back. Okay, client has to do something called callback and then get the response. Okay, client has two responsibilities here. Okay, so one-way web service, there is no concept called response here. It's only one-way communication. Client submit the request, but client won't expect the response, and web service also won't generate any response. Any questions till this point? No? Okay. So now, so there is one main difference between these synchronous and asynchronous web services. Synchronous web service is a short running process. It's a short running process. But asynchronous web service is a long running process. I mean, you can have a big business logic in asynchronous process, asynchronous web services. But synchronous web services, you have to design short business logic. When I said short, I mean, it's the time to execute the business logic. Okay, so by default, synchronous web service works for 45 seconds. I mean, maximum 45 seconds. You can design a business logic which can execute, which will take time to execute the business logic, maximum 45 seconds. Suppose if you have more logic in your synchronous web service, which may need 2 minutes to complete the execution, synchronous web service, after 45 seconds of execution, synchronous web service will raise an error called timeout error. It's very important. Even in interviews, you get this question. Okay, so synchronous web service, you can design the business logic, but the business logic, execution of the business logic must complete in less than 45 seconds. Suppose if you design a big business logic here, which take more than 45 seconds to execute, then at runtime, your synchronous web service will fail with a timeout error. Okay, but asynchronous web service don't have such kind of limitations. Asynchronous web service, you can design a big business logic as well. You can design a business logic for 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute execution time. Okay, so this synchronous web service, guys, there is something called sync max wait time. There is a property called sync max wait time in synchronous web service. Okay, so that property default value is 45 seconds. Sync max wait time. This is the property name. You can note down somewhere if you want. Okay. Sync max wait time. I will ping you in the chart, or I will write here. Okay. Sync max wait time. So this property default value is 45 seconds. 45 seconds. So this property is server level property, and it is a global property. I mean, suppose if you change it to 60 seconds, that means in the server, all synchronous web services timeout becomes 60 seconds. If you change it to 60 seconds, this is a global property. I mean, server level property. If you modify this, that affects all synchronous services within the server, within the SOA server. Any questions? Any questions? No. Okay, so sir, this is an assignment for you. Identify how to modify sync max wait time property in SOA server. Okay, this is your assignment. Okay, do this and let me know tomorrow. But this kind of property we don't have it for asynchronous process. Asynchronous process has no time limit like this. It can execute for a long time. So that's what the reason synchronous web service is called as short running process. Asynchronous web service is called as long running process. Any questions till now? If not, I will go to the next concept. Okay, done. So now the next thing is, guys, I want to show you one example. I want to create a web service with multiple operations. Web service with multiple operations. Sir, SOA concept is advanced than OOPS concept. That means whatever capabilities are there in OOPS, every capability we can do in SOA as well. Okay. So one of the concept, I mean, let's say if you take a Java class, in a Java class, you have one class with multiple methods. Okay. Java class contains multiple methods. Similarly, web service contains multiple operations. Web service contains multiple operations. Okay, this how to design a web service with multiple operation, I want to show you in today's example. Okay, I want to create a web service, which can perform addition and subtraction operations, I want to create a web service which can perform addition and subtraction operations. Any questions? Requirement is clear. Okay, this is a program we want to design. Okay, so only one web service which can support two operations. Earlier, the hello world example, how it is in hello world example, we have only one operation. If you go back to JDeveloper and see your hello world operation, your hello world web service contains only one operation. Of course, this operation defined in WSDL. Go to WSDL. WSDL is the interface, right? If you go to WSDL, you can see only one operation. Which contains input and output parameters. Okay, but now I want to design a web service which contains two operations, not just one. Okay, right. And I also want to show you a different approach to implement this. Okay, what I mean is, let me give you the steps. So do you remember how you designed the Hello World program? We followed a series of steps. Number one, create SOA project. Okay, and number two, create request XSD. Number three, create response XSD. Number four, create WSDL. Number five, configure service component in composite. Yes or no? We did all these steps or not? Step 6, configure DeepL component. Okay, configure DeepL component, and then configure wire between service component and DeepL component. Okay, now inside DeepL, activities configuration. Inside Beeple, activities configuration. What are the activities we configured? Receive activity with input variable. Next, replay activity with output variable. And then required logic in assign activity. So these are all the steps we did. Is that correct or not? Any questions you have? Did we miss anything? Did we miss anything? No? Come on. Please
No,
respond,
sir.
guys. It will be very helpful if you respond. So these are all the steps we followed to build a Hello World web service. Correct? Now, I don't want to make all these all these steps. So I want to simplify it. Create SOA project. Okay. Configure Beeple web service. Okay. Sir, when I said configure Beeple web service, starting with step number two up to line number 10, starting with line number 2 up to line number 10, everything will be configured in only one step. Only one step. I will show you the approach. Is it a good idea? I don't want to do all these steps. I want to make it very simple step. Starting from line number 2 to line number 10, whatever we did, everything I want to modify in just one step. Okay. Step number 3, customize business logic and required things. Whatever we want, we can customize everything. I want to do my web service in 3 steps. Any questions? Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, done. So now let me do this. Guys, I want to name this web service as arithmetic service. Okay, because we are doing addition and subtraction, right? Two different operations in this web service. So I just want to name it as arithmetic web service or arithmetic operation, something. Okay. What we can do, it's very simple. Go to your JDeveloper, and copy, sorry, not copy. I mean, you need to create a new project. You know the steps, right? How to create a new project. Click on the small drop down icon, and then you can see new, and here you can see project. Once you click on project, you can go to SOA section, SOA tire, SOA project. Okay, give some name for this project. Arithmetic service. Okay, arithmetic service. Click next, and here I'm just selecting empty composite. I'm not doing anything else, just an empty composite. Click finish. Actually, you can also select Beeple process here if you want. Composite with Beeple, because we want what is the first step? Create a project and then Beeple configuration. Correct? So here itself you have an option at the time of project creation. You can select the Beeple process as well. Okay, I will show you in some other example, or you can try when you are doing practice. You can try what will happen if you select composite with Beeple. I'm selecting empty composite. You can also select composite with Beeple, not an issue. Click finish. Step number 1 completed, correct? Now step number 2, instead of doing line number 2 to line number 10, I just want to make a simple configuration which gives you everything, which gives you request XSD, response XSD, WSDL, service component, Beeple component, and a wire between service and Beeple component. Inside Beeple, receive activity, reply activity. All these things will come in one step. Is it a good idea? It is saving our time or not? Okay. Now let's come back here. It's very simple, guys. What you can do in the component list. If you see, this is the components list. Here you can see a component called Beeple. Just drag drop the Beeple in the center pane of the Beeple process, center pane of the composite. Just leave it. In the pop-up, it will ask you for the people. I will say arithmetic people, and you can, this is a target namespace. You can give your own. I will say practice.com, and the remaining stuff is fine for me. And then here, template type, we want to create the web service, not REST service. Let's go with web service. And template, guys, you can go with synchronous web service or asynchronous web service. Any one template you can select. See here, synchronous, asynchronous, and one way. Synchronous, asynchronous, one way. We discussed all these things, right? This is the, in the diagram, we discussed synchronous, asynchronous, one way. Okay. So in this example, I want to use asynchronous BPL process. I have a purpose for this. Of course, it's not mandatory to use only asynchronous process, because in the previous example, hello world, I shown you the synchronous template, synchronous operation, synchronous template. Okay. This time I want to select asynchronous. There is a purpose I will explain you later. Synchronous BPL process. Okay. And then here you observe input and output. These are input. This is an input XSD. This is an output XSD. This is an input XSD. This is an output XSD. I'm not creating any XSD by my own. System is going to generate two XSDs. First XSD is a process XSD. Second XSD is a process response XSD. It's system generated XSDs. Okay. Later we can modify if we want. But here I'm selecting a system generated XSDs. Suppose, guys, let's assume you have XSDs handy with you. You have XSDs with you. Okay. In that case, you can browse the XSD as well. You can browse the XSD if you think you have XSDs. As of now, in my current project, I don't have XSDs. See, this folder is empty. All the folders are empty. Okay. As of now, I don't have any XSD. But what I'm doing, I'm just using the system generated XSDs. Later we can modify. Any questions till now? No? Say okay. Just click OK. Done. We'll see everything configured or not. Just observe here what are all configured. There is an XSD document, system generated. We did not create it. Let me open it. Observe process XSD, process response XSD. Two XSDs created. Of course, they are not in a format which we need. They are not in the format which we are expecting. Okay, but two XSDs created. We can utilize them. We can modify them from here onwards. Okay, and then go to the next document, WSDL. Let's open WSDL document. You can see the WSDL. You can see the WSDL, which contains types section, which is importing an XSD, one XSD, and then we have two messages: arithmetic BPL request message, which is alias name of process XSD, arithmetic BPL response message, which is alias name of process response. And here, observe, guys, there are two port types, port type 1 and 2. Let me enable the line numbers, toggle line numbers. Okay. See, in the line number 38, you can see one port type, and line number 47, you can see another port type. Guys, do you remember what kind of template I selected? Asynchronous template. And if you observe here, this operation contains only input parameter. There is no output parameter. Okay, this is port type. This is callback port type. This is port type. This is callback port type. How to use this, I will tell you. I will tell you, just wait for some time. Okay. Any questions till now? Any questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So suppose if you open Hello World XSD, Hello World WSDL, guys, this is very important class. You will get an understanding about the customization of the web service. This is the maximum customization we do in any project. Maximum customization, what I'm saying, underline that. Okay. If you open the Hello World WSDL, see here, we have only one port type which contains an operation, and this operation contains input and output parameters. But in the asynchronous WSDL, we have two port types, and the first port type contains one operation with input parameter. Second port type contains another operation with only input parameter. So this is a callback port. This is actually designed for output. This is actually designed for output, but this we are calling it as callback port. I told you, right, asynchronous web service won't send any output. Client has to send the input, client has to get the output, client has to do something to get the output. Are we good? So what is that he need to do? We are going to learn. For that reason, there is something different. This asynchronous web service WSDL is little different than synchronous web service WSDL. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Now, so we saw XSD, we saw WSDL, and then you can see the service component configured by its own. Size service component system generated, people component system generated, wire between service component and people component system generated. See all these things system generated, right? Create request XSD, response XSD, WSDL, configure service component, configure people component, configure wire between. So till this point, everything done up to 7. Up to 7, everything done.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
now go inside the people. If you go inside the people, see here, inside people, we have a receive activity. We have a receive activity with the input variable. Receive activity with input variable. Just open the receive activity and see input variable, receive activity with input variable, and reply activity with output variable. But here, guys, if you open the activity, any activity, if you open, this is called display name. This is just a label. This is display name. But whatever you see here, heading, right? Edit receive. So this is the activity name. Edit receive. This is the activity name. Okay. Whatever you give here is a display name. It's not the activity name. It is a label of the activity. Okay. Suppose if you see, what is the label now? Receive input XYZ. You can modify it. You can modify it whatever name you want. But what is the actual name of the activity? What is the actual name of this activity? What is the activity name? Receive activity. Activity name is receive activity. Okay, done. So this one, what is the display name?
Callback name, response. Response.
Display name, display name, display. Label,
Callback client.
label, callback client. Whatever the name displayed is the display name or the label of the activity. But the original name of the activity, if you double click on it, you can see the original name here. What is the activity here?
Invoke
What is the
activity.
activity? Invoke activity. It's not reply activity. See, in a synchronous people process, we will have reply activity. In a synchronous people process, we will have invoke activity. We are using this invoke activity as callback activity. I will tell you what is this activity, how it will be operated. We'll see. Okay. So this is not a reply activity. Asynchronous web service don't have reply activity. Asynchronous web service will have invoke activity as callback response, callback process. Okay, we don't have receive activity. If you open hello world, let me open hello world. It's the synchronous people, right? In the synchronous people, the last activity will be reply activity, which sends the output. But in asynchronous web service, it's not reply activity. It is display name is callback. You can change it. You can change it. Display name always you can change. Display name is just user defined keyword. But original activity name is invoke activity. So there is no activity called callback activity. You may get this question in interviews. Sometimes people will ask you, is there any activity called callback activity? No, we don't have an activity called a callback activity. We have an activity called invoke activity, which is used as callback activity. Is this clear? Any question? So all are one step. In one step, I completed till this point, starting from line number 2 to line number 10. So all these steps I replaced in one step. It's your choice. You want to design each of this by your own, or you want to design everything in one step. So when you are configuring the Beeple web service in single step, it's your choice whether you want to go for synchronous web service or asynchronous web service. The template will give you option. You can choose the synchronous web service or asynchronous web service option in the template, and then click on OK button, which complete everything. All the steps will be completed. in a single configuration. Any questions till now? Any questions? No?
No, sir.
Right. So suppose, yeah, thank you. Suppose guys, if you want to design some business logic in this people process, of course you have input variable and output variable. Whatever logic you want to do, you can design and deploy and test it. You can design, deploy and test it. Okay. But for my current requirement, I don't need one operation. If you see here, this is only one operation. If you go to WSDL, arithmetic operation people, physically there are two port types. And each port type contains one operation. But logically, all together is one operation. This is one operation. Asynchronous operation. This is one asynchronous operation. One asynchronous operation needs port type, callback port type, okay, and operation and callback operation or response operation. So combination of two port types comes together and form a asynchronous operation. I mean, if you go to the BPL, observe here, receive activity. In the receive activity, operation name process. In the callback activity, operation name is process response. Together is one operation. Okay. But suppose if you go to BPL, hello world, receive activity, operation is hello world, reply activity operation also hello world. So they are using one operation. Physically, logically, only one operation. But if you go to asynchronous process, physically two operations, logically they work as one operation. Are we good? Physically two operations, logically they work as one operation. Is it clear? Any questions? So here I can do whatever business logic I want. Okay. But my current requirement does not support this one. But my current requirement is I want two different operations. One operation explicitly for addition, one operation explicitly for subtraction. This way I want to design two operations. Guys, you need to listen, think about it, correlate the things. Okay, just following the class, you just listening the class won't give you any advantage. You need to think about it. Okay, you need to correlate about it. And this is the program, whatever we are doing, this is the maximum customization we do in a project. Maximum, I'm telling you, this is maximum customization. Okay, right. So now what I want to do is, of course, whatever template we received, everything is fine, but it doesn't support multi-operation. I want to make some changes in this. Okay, so let me do step by step. First, what I want to do is I want to clean up my people process. Okay, if it is a single operation you are looking for, then what you can do, go to your XSD document. If you want to modify something, these XSDs are system generated XSDs, may not suitable to our requirement, correct? So what I want to do, you can modify the XSDs and you can use them. You can tweak. Suppose I want 4 simple elements. You can add more simple elements here and use it. Okay, but this won't works for me. Okay, what I want to clean my entire service and use it or customize it as per my requirement. So this cleaning part you need to do in a proper manner, guys. So I want to delete something, but you cannot delete randomly. Okay, you need to follow the process. First, what I want to do is I want to delete the bindings. These are called bindings, partner link and activity. Follow the same series of steps. Delete the binding. Delete the receive activity binding, guys, because this current template is not suitable for my requirement. I want to clean up few things. And recreate them as per my need. Okay, delete binding, delete the receive activity, delete the invoke activity or callback. You can say invoke as callback. It's struck. Give him a 1 or 2 minutes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so invoke as callback deleted. Now you need to delete the variables. I don't want these variables. I don't want these variables. I'm just deleting. Okay, done. So I cleaned up my BPEL process. So when you are doing cleanup, make sure you follow the same series of steps. First remove the bindings, then delete the activities, then delete the variables. Done. BPEL cleaned. Now I want to go to XSD document. I want to go to XSD document. See, these XSDs are system generated XSDs and not really suitable for my requirement. So what I want to do is, I want to modify the XSD as per my requirement. Okay. So this is, instead of process, I want to call it as request schema. Is it fine? Complex element is always user defined. Name of the complex element is user defined. Under this complex element, I want to see, if you want to perform addition of two numbers, how many integers you need to supply as input? Minimum 2, correct? So I will say input 1, and input 2, okay? And instead of string, I want to call it as integer, okay? In the output, I will say response schema, and here I will ask for operation name, okay, which is a string. Result is an integer. Okay, observe this XSDs. I modified system generated XSDs as per my need. My input, I need input which is two integers, which must contain two integers. Okay, I want to generate output. Which contains operation name and result. Suppose let's assume 10 and 20 are the inputs, 10 and 20. Okay, I want to perform addition of two numbers. Then operation name is addition and result is 30. This is what I'm expecting. Are we good? Any question? Come on, speak
No,
on
sir.
this. If you want, I will pause here. Not just cause I'm expecting from everybody. Guys, please let me know.
This conference will now be recorded.
So now we customized request XSD and response XSD as per our need. So guys, I can use this request XSD for addition operation. I can also use this request and response XSD for subtraction operation as well. Correct? If you want to perform addition, we need two integers. This is enough. If we want to perform addition, two integers enough. If we want to perform subtraction, the same two integers enough. That's what the reason I'm saying this request XSD suitable for addition operation, subtraction operation as well. This response schema XSD suitable for addition operation, subtraction operation as well. Okay. Now, the major change what I did here, I modified the complex element names. In XSD, there are two XSDs in one document. I have one XSD document which contains two XSDs. The major change what I did is I modified the complex element and simple elements. So when you modify complex element, when you modify or rename complex element, that immediately affects your WSDL. Let me go to WSDL. See this, in this WSDL document, immediately it is showing an error in the message section. It is showing error in the message section because Message is an alias name of XSD. This is what we learned, right? Basic concept. Message is an alias name of XSD, but XSD name itself we modified. Instead of process, I renamed it as request schema. So WSDL is still using the old name. So that's what the reason it is showing this yellow color line. WSDL not able to find this XSD. WSDL not able to find this XSD. Why? Because we renamed it. There is no process XSD. Process is no more. Okay. So how to fix this? You need to change this as XSD name. Whatever XSD name we have, use the same XSD name here. Save your WSDL document. See the error gone. Error gone for first message. There is no error for first message because we did the required changes. We did the required changes. Okay. Same thing you need to apply on the second message. Here, instead of old name, process response, instead of old name, what is the new name? Response schema. You must use response schema XSD. See the error gone. Now, your WSDL, the issue in WSDL, message sections related issue got solved. So remember this point. Anytime if you modify the complex element in your XSD, topmost element in your XSD, if you modify, that affects all WSDLs which are having dependency on that XSD and which WSDL contains a message as an alias name of that XSD. Okay, this is very important point, right? And then if you see here, we have two messages, right? Message name is user defined. Message name is user defined. Arithmetic BPL request message, arithmetic BPL response message. These two are user defined in line number 24 and line number 28. But if you go to operation in line number 40, it's a predefined keyword. In line number 49, it's a predefined keyword. All these things we discussed in the WSDL session. Okay. Now, operation name, if you see, the operation name is process and this is process response. I don't want this operation, guys. What I want is, I want to make it addition or add operation. Add operation. And this one, add response operation. Add response operation. I'm just changing it, changing the naming conventions as per my need. That's it. See, we already know what are all user defined keywords, what are all predefined keywords. Okay. Suppose you are not comfortable with this message naming convention, you can modify it. What I will say, arithmetic request message. I'm just doing some tweaking. If you modify the message names in line number 24 and line number 28, the immediate impact will be in line number 40 and line number 49. The immediate impact will be in line number 40 and 49 because the message names what we defined modified. Original message name I modified and I provided a new keyword. So the same new keyword you have to use in your operation under input parameter and under your second operation as well. See, now the error gone. Now the error gone. So I'm trying to do maximum customization, guys. Okay. So asynchronous operation, I want to design it as a, sorry, addition operation, I want to design it as an asynchronous web service. Addition operation, I want to design as an asynchronous web service. Subtraction operation, I want to design it as a synchronous web service. So within the program, I have two operations. One is asynchronous, one is synchronous. Yes, it is possible. You can do that. Okay, as of now, whatever you see here is the addition operation, which is asynchronous. Asynchronous means asynchronous operation, physically two operations required. One is for request, one is for callback. For asynchronous operation, physically two operations required. One is for request, one is for callback. But for async, okay, I unmuted everybody. So
Okay,
guys,
sir.
you are clear what I'm saying? This template is for asynchronous web service. Asynchronous web service. That means asynchronous operation physically need two operations. Asynchronous operation physically need two operations. One is for request, one is for callback. But synchronous operation which needs only one operation. Synchronous operation which needs only one operation. Subtraction I want to design as a synchronous operation. Subtraction operation I want to design as a synchronous operation. That means this guy need input and output parameters. Input and output parameters. I'm utilizing the same messages, guys. If you observe, I'm utilizing same XSDs and same messages. See the template.
Okay.
We have two port types. The first operation, addition operation, physically two parts. Physically, it has two parts. One is for request, one is for callback. But subtraction operation, it has only one operation, physically one operation, logically one operation, but it contains input and output parameters. It contains input and output parameters. Any questions? Any questions till now?
No questions.
No? Now my WSDL is supporting two operations, addition operation, subtraction operation. Addition as a asynchronous service, subtraction as a synchronous service. Clear? That's it. So this is the maximum customization you need to do. Now close your XSDs. Just remember, guys, operation name, remember the operation names. This is addition operation, subtraction operation. This is addition response operation. Okay, let me close unwanted files. Now, if you go to BPEL, so what is the first activity in a BPEL process? At any time, what is the first activity in a BPEL process? Receive activity, correct? So
Yes.
we start our BPEL process. We start our BPEL process with receive activity, which will receive the input, and stores the data into input variable. But in our current use case, we have two different operations. Each operation will have their own input. Each operation will have their own variable. So receive activity will not serve the purpose here. Receive activity is designed to handle only one operation. Instead of receive activity, you have to use something called pick activity. You have to use something called pick activity. Receive activity is only meant for one operation, but our current requirement is not just one operation. We want to handle more than one operation. For that, we have to use another activity called pick activity. Done? So the pick activity, let me show you. So pick activity contains two types of branches. You can see on message. You can add any number of on messages branches. Okay. And you have something called on alarm. Okay. So in this example, I'm not going to use on alarm. We'll use this in some other example. Okay. I'm not using on alarm. Delete it. But I'm using pick activity with two on message branches. Each on message branch works like a receive activity. Each on message branch works like a receive activity. So we want addition operation and subtraction operation. So each on message, first on message I will use it for addition, second on message I will use it for subtraction. Any questions till now? No? Okay. So
No,
here,
no, sir.
here, if you double click on this pick activity, you have an option create instance. We are creating instances for every run of the program, right? This is the one. Okay, say okay. Now the first on message I will plan it for addition operation, and the second on message I will plan it for subtraction operation. So guys, time up. I will stop here. Okay. Let me stop the recording. We'll continue the session in the next session. In the next session, we'll design the business logic and deploy and test the service. Okay.
Okay, sir.